This moment for 4 years, and it's finally here. World Cup kicks off on Sunday, Qatar versus Ecuador. But before we go into that, we want to talk about obviously today's game between Sweden and Mexico, their last friendly before the World Cup, and obviously the controversial list of 26 men that Tata Martino is taking. And then we're going to go into our predictions for the group stages, all of the groups. But before I go any further, let me welcome my good friend Joel. Joel, how we doing tonight?
I'm doing good, Jaime. I got to catch some of that Mexico versus Sweden game. I'm not. Hey, it was an improvement considering the last two games were 3-0 defeats. At least they managed to score one on the Swedes.
Oh, you're talking about just their record against Sweden?
Yeah, their last two games were 3-0 defeats. So, you know,
Yeah, honestly, I think people are overreacting with this results. You got to keep in mind that we're 4 days from a World Cup. The coach is not going to give his actual final starting 11 for this match. He's gonna do half, get a little preview, and then take off some players and then make substitutions. So it was just like a little glimpse of what the Mexican national team might look like, the final form for Tuesday. But I wouldn't start, saying that the world's falling and the world's gonna end. It's not that serious.
well, and that's the whole thing with friendly games. Um, Not just friendly games, even the World Cup qualifying process, it doesn't always gonna predicate. I don't think that's the word, but it's not always gonna like give you like a fair. God damn, I'm out of words.
It's
I'm
it,
saying you could do
yeah,
you could do really good on the World Cup qualifying. You could kick ass in all the friendlies leading up to it. Then you get to the tournament and you can bomb. And so, like we've seen it before, Colombia going into the '94 World Cup, they were regarded as one of the favorites to win it. That's a Colombia team that had destroyed Argentina in Buenos Aires, 4-0 or 5-0. I can't
wow.
remember. They were one goal away from eliminating them. If they had scored one more goal, um, Argentina wouldn't have, because Argentina had to qualify to repechaje. They went on to play Australia, I
That's
think.
crazy.
Yeah, and then Colombia gets to the '94 World Cup and fails to make it out of the group stage, loses to host the US,
Hmm.
which was like, if you compare the players, the team, dude, night and day. Colombia had like a beast. It had just one a really fun squad to watch of extremely talented players. Um, and the dude couldn't make it. Argentina, when Bielsa was, ahead of that team, it was just insane. That Argentina team was stacked, and another team that failed to make it out of group stage. So it's it's hard to predict sometimes,
Yeah.
and if you put too much stock in friendlies or whatnot, it's like I, I guess it's just based because we're watching it, and that's why we're thinking, okay, that we see it kind of linear. A leads to B, B leads.
Yeah.
So it's like they can't beat this team, and they're not gonna be able to do this. But it's like that old saying, dude. Each tournament, each cup, it's its own thing.
Yeah, there's like a flip that switches as soon as the referee blows the whistle and the World Cup kicks off. The level and the intensity just it's a flip. It's a switch. And I mean, you don't even have to go that far. You can look at 2014, us qualifying thanks to Susie and getting into the pechaje, and everybody thought that Mexico was going to go into the World Cup and do fuck all, and they end up having a really good run with getting a draw against Brazil and all that, and also
Beating Croatia,
and beating Croatia after they talk so much
yeah.
shit, and
Well, they
then
beat Croatia. They beat Croatia and Cameroon.
yeah.
And well, this is the big thing. People may not give that much credit to that, but that's one of the best runs for selección as far as group stage. Um, 7 points, tying the host, and the host being Brazil. That's massive. And then if we look at the results against African teams, they've always struggled. So the fact that they got
Yeah.
that win over Cameroon was pretty big as well.
And we should have won that group because we had a couple of goals disallowed against
Against
Cameroon.
Cameroon, yeah.
Yeah, we should have won that group actually. Um, one thing I want to say for those that are kind of like hungry and want to know a little bit more about where the history of the Mexican national team. If you have VIX Plus, there's a show called Al Grito de Guerra, and it's a quick 6 episode sort of going over the history of Mexico and their runs in the World Cup. And Joel, like before I watched this, I was on that. Oh, we can't get past the round of 16, and
Yeah.
and woe is me. Dude, shit was rough before the 90s, dog. Shit was rough.
I've, I've been telling I've been telling you guys, man. I've been singing that tune because and I see especially there. I think there's younger, newer tricolor fans, and they it's funny when they call it the dark times, and I'm like, you're calling this the dark times? I'm like, well, I was like Bane from Batman.
Yeah, dude. So like, obviously they hosted it in 70 and they got to the quarters, and then I want to say what in 74 they didn't qualify or
They
78.
did not qualify. No,
Yeah.
74. They got eliminated. I don't know if it was host. I think their last game was against Haiti, but you went back then. The qualifiers used to be hosted in one country. It
Oh, I didn't
wasn't
know that.
like it is now. Yeah, it's not like it is now where it's the whole home and home, and
Yeah.
before they kind of almost like a tournament, and so they'll go to Honduras or El Salvador. So Mexico got to host it. So they didn't make it in 74. In
Yeah.
78, they hosted the tournament. So they played every game at Azteca
You mean
and see
no, 78 was
in Argentina, but I'm saying they're hosting the World Cup qualifying.
Oh, okay, 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 okay.
Yeah, and I'm gonna bring it back around because they dominated, and then they go to Argentina, and I
Yeah.
think they lost every
They
game.
lost every game. Oh, and that was Hugo Sanchez's first World Cup, and he was pretty young. He was only 20 years old in 78. And then in 82, they don't qualify. And Hugo
Yeah,
Sanchez
this was
Hugo
in
Sanchez
Central
misses out.
America. They did, yeah, they too. It was in Central America. The tournament was hosted. I don't know if it was El Salvador or Honduras, but yeah, they
Yeah. And then you go
Mex man,
then
they
in 86, you host it again and Hugo's in there. And then
yeah.
in
Quinto
19
partido. Wait. It
oh,
must be said. Quinto partido.
quinto partido.
They get to the quinto partido there,
Yeah.
and then
Oh, and there was a controversial, I don't know if it was that one where they didn't take Flaco Tena because of his shoes.
contract.
Yeah.
I said contract with who did he have? Puma or
I think he had Pony or something like that.
Pony? Pony. Yeah, it was creepy, like some of the brands, because the 1978 kit for Mexico is Levi's.
That's crazy.
So you look at the jersey, you can see the little red. It's like little red tag and it says Levi's.
Yeah, and so you have that where like Mexico like would make like they would go to quarterfinals and then they wouldn't qualify, and then they would go to the World Cup and then get like destroyed. Then they wouldn't qualify again. Then they go to the quarters again, and then in 1990 when Hugo Sanchez was at his peak, you know,
There's a
they
couple guys at their peak actually,
yeah,
but yeah,
and they got obviously banned for cachirules. So they didn't get to go to the 1990 World Cup, and then everybody says like they had taken the lessons from '86 and they were ready to like they had squad for '90.
they did, and just the whole whoever was running the youth program, I think they messed up because they wanted not the youth program, but the youth team. I think it was for the Olympics, and I'm not sure if they just wanted to promote some players, like use that to give them more experience, or to give them like be able to sell them like because I don't think it was needed, but uh, it just talks about how bad kind of the federación was run, and even then, like the punishment, FIFA, not FIFA, CONCACAF, they just booted the team from the Olympics,
Mm-hmm.
and so the federación was like, "Oh, the fuck you are," you know, Cañedo's vice president. We're taking this to FIFA, and then when they took the case to FIFA, like, hey, look, we got caught cheating. FIFA was like, they imposed that harsh ban. So it's like Mexico shot itself on the foot.
Yeah, and missed out on that. So what I'm trying to say to all the listeners that are young and maybe they've only seen a couple of World Cups from Mexico and oh my god, it's the same thing and it's like, yo, at least we get to go to the World Cup. Like not everybody can say that they consistently go to the World Cup and then even from there get out of the group stage. Like not even world champions can say that. So Mexico has this like weird streak going on and it's like as frustrating as it is, it's very impressive to consistently make round of
Group
16,
stage. Yeah. I mean, not group stage, you're right, right. It is, and it's
especially
like
the groups
more
that we've been in. It's like France, Germany. Like, come on, dude.
group of death in '94, three Euro teams. Italy, which went on to make the final, Norway and Ireland. And that was the group of death. And then Mexico was, they were pretty much the ones that were
They won that
expected
group.
to, and they ended up winning it, and they were expected to not make it out of there. Um, so it's just kind of shows some of the randomness of the World Cup, you know. But like you were saying, damn, what were you saying? You just said something earlier.
Just like consistently
I,
getting out of the group and
there, that I want to talk about how that not just make it, but to be at the World Cup. So you'll see teams that will go 20, 30 years without a World Cup, and then they go and then it's three and out.
yeah. And everyone talks shit about the CONCACAF region about how oh it's a joke. And there was actually an article today that came out from is it the Tribune? Um, it was Chucky Lozano. He wrote the article, and it was great. It was very inspiring, and he talked about his dream about like how he was a kid and he lived like a stone's throw away from Azteca, and it was his dream to eventually like score a goal there, and he did on his debut when he was 18. And then he talked about how he had bigger ambitions because he had a kid on the way, and he was only 17 when he got his girl pregnant, and how he's like, oh, I'm gonna have to go to Europe. And he's had like these dreams and ambitions, and then he talked about how he almost like died when he had that collision with the goalkeeper from Trinidad and Tobago. And
Damn.
yeah, dude, it was a lot worse than we thought. He said his eye exploded and his neck and his spine got fucked up, and
Damn, dude.
then he talked about the region. He talked about qualifiers in CONCACAF and how they brush it aside. And he says like, yeah, you try to go to sleep when the fans have like fireworks and rockets blasting in your hotel like all night, and then
And they take bands. They take black bands to play all night
and then
right outside.
yeah, and then he says like then you go all the way to Canada where it's like below zero and it's like the coldest I've ever played in, and it's like this region's not
This is
easy.
well, you know what, and that's the other thing because you could be in Central America and you playing in humid, with the humidity, and then yeah, you travel to Canada or even the U.S. Columbus, and then now you're playing in freezing weather. It's it's one of the most the region I will say the region where it's
Dynamic.
well, no, I wouldn't say dynamic, but like where it's like all different like
The
weathers and
extremes.
whatnot.
Yeah, the extremes. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, a lot of them like Europe or South America. they're not that far from each other, so it's
Yeah.
not that different. You know, Argentina, Uruguay, Peru. I mean, not Peru, Paraguay. They're all like stone throws away from each other. So it's
And then
it's like almost playing within their own country. But
we have
here,
altitude. We have altitude as well.
yes, different. Yeah, yeah, and that's one of the things where they've always like discredit the region. I think it's mostly discredited because the majority of the countries don't have like that big history,
Hmm.
and then there's all the corruption with Caribbean and Central America that obviously hurts them. But the teams have always been competitive, like pretty competitive. But except they have a few times crashed. So like El Salvador in Spain, they're one of the teams that went to Spain '82. Um, it was Honduras and El Salvador got wrecked by Hungary, man. Hungary, a team that was like they were one of the historics early on, and then they just disappeared.
Hmm.
And that was like their last World Cup appearance in '82, and they beat them like I don't know if it's 10 or 12-0.
Oh shit.
Yeah, it was a beatdown, man. It was brutal. It was harsh. I think Saudis have recovered, and then the Hungarians didn't recover either. We haven't seen them since.
It
We didn't
was
even hear about them.
10-1,
Oh, 10 to
1982.
1. There you go. There you go. Yeah, and then we have that famous player from Hungary, Puskas.
Yep.
But if you see like Hungary going back, like 50s, 60s, maybe earlier, they were one of the big teams, strong teams that got good results. And then I don't know what the hell happened. They just sort of disappeared.
Yeah, so I just wanted to preface that for the listeners. Hey, like, don't get bummed out, man. Like, things could be a lot worse. People would love to be in your shoes where you are right now, especially that salty ass motherfucker from ESPN Deportes, the guy that talks so much shit. Del Valle, dude. That guy talks so much shit on the national team. I don't know if you ever watch ESPN Deportes, but that guy, he always talks about Mexico and how trash they are.
El Kid,
Del,
he's Chapin, so yeah,
yeah.
he was in Jorge Ramos y su banda.
Yep.
He won. They had like some contest of like with like people trying out, and he won it, and that's how they brought him in. But I think
Oh.
it's part of his. I think it was part of his like who's that guy Morales, the guy that switched from Cruz Azul to America,
Uh huh.
kind of like him. He's kind of like I think that's his thing to rile up people like just to hate. I honestly don't think he hates, but I think
He just
kind of
plays
what he
the
goes for.
yeah. He kind of plays the persona. Yeah.
Yeah, to antagonize.
Yeah, and I don't know. Like, look, the list came out on Monday. 26 players, and obviously the big drama, the big dilemma, the thing that people were talking about day and night was about the striker situation and how Tata just insisted on taking Raul despite the lack of playing time, the injuries, and just being out of rhythm. And then you have a hot striker going playing for Feyenoord and being the top goal scorer in the Europa League. And Tata just decided, hey, you know what? I'm gonna go with my guy. I'm gonna go with my gut, and that's Raul Jimenez. So it was very controversial, and like both Santi Jimenez and Diego Lainez were asked to fly into Girona just for him to just say, "All right, y'all can leave." like, and they knew ahead of time that they weren't gonna make it to the World Cup, and they still kind of like showed face. But I mean, how frustrating can it be from a player's perspective to get denied like that close to the World Cup? And I don't know,
I
man.
think more so for Santi than Linus.
Hmm.
Because Linus has been a bust, and we even talked about this way back when it looked when it looked like he wasn't gonna get much at Betis, and we talked about how he should just return to America. How I do think if he would have returned, he could have helped them win a championship. He's shown that in Liga MX just how good he can be.
Hmm.
But I mean, I feel like he should have came back. He would have not just gotten playing time. He would have been one of the key players, and then he would have made the World Cup, and he would have had a chance to show himself at the world stage. And he could have left again. He could have gone back to Europe if that's what he wanted.
Man.
Choosing to stay, I think, with no guarantees, and then going to another team with, and then even not playing time. I don't,
Yeah, I
you
mean,
know.
a fork in the road. He might have he could have gone to Ajax and it would have been a completely different story. Or he could have waited. He could have waited and stayed at America. At the end of the day,
Well, and well, you know what, Jaime, really quick,
yeah,
because that was the big debate, Ajax or Betis, and yeah, Ajax was the better team to go to just because how the Dutch league is has been for Mexican players.
yep,
The majority go and they end up doing well. Um, but the whole thing of going to Betis was that it would have been easier for him to get an EU passport, and then that the vice president of the club flew into Mexico
that's right.
to talk to him, and they had him as like, they were trying to like build a team, and he was going to be one of their main players. But I don't know what happened, and I don't know if that guy and the coach
I think the coach got
ended up.
fired.
Yeah, but I think also from the directiva, because the directiva could could force the hand of the coach, and it was like we didn't bring this guy to you know so he could rot in the bench, similar to like Chucky at Napoli, right?
Right,
It seemed like what's his name was gonna erase him.
Gattuso.
Yeah, it looked like he wanted to erase him, and they were like, "Dude, we just spent 50 million on this guy. The fuck you are? Figure it out. Figure it out, and get his ass to play." And he did. You know, he had to smack him around a bit, like when he sent him home because he didn't have game face going into the training. It was pretty brilliant.
Yeah, on that article that Chucky wrote, he said that Carlo Ancelotti had him like go over his house, invited his whole family, and how they all had a huge family dinner, and how like Carlo was like a real stand up guy, and then he got fired, and then his relationship with the Gattuso was like, yeah, Gattuso like is like 100 miles an hour, like a freight train hitting you. So very interesting to like know that like how crazy like the different styles is for coaching.
Yeah, and how it could affect the players. I really do think had Chucky not gone for that amount, say he was 10, 5, whatever, he would have been just erased.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he said like his family went away during COVID, and he couldn't get on the plane with them, and he spent like 3 months isolated from his his wife and child, and he said that it really messed with him mentally, and it obviously affected his performance on and off the pitch. So a lot of things that as a fan you might not know what's actually going on behind the scenes. Tecatito Corona had that incident where he was asked to like leave the training camp for the national team to handle some personal business. He ended up not going to the I forgot what tournament it was, but he ended up not going, and everybody thought, "Oh, this guy's not committed." But you just never know what's going on in your personal life. I think he like lost a child or something. I don't know. It was one of those things, but I'm sure a lot of people have Carlos Vela misunderstood, probably myself included. You don't know what the hell he went through, or
See, finally you guys are coming, seeing the light.
I talk so much shit about
That,
Carlos Vela, but you know what? Maybe I just need to have a little chat with him. A little fireside chat.
no, well, for a lot of these guys, their career as footballers can be very short. And a lot of them, all they know is how to play football. It's not like they went to school. Very few do, but it's not like they went to school. And even if they went, it's like after like what 5, 10 years, can they, switch careers?
Hmm.
And so a lot of them end up not really knowing what to do, or they don't know how to handle, life after football. It's like, well, what do I do now? And when we think about the players, we always think about the main ones, the top, top famous ones, but there's hundreds and hundreds that are like the guy in the roster that you're gonna forget about. He- they didn't make it to the first team. Um, so yeah, for these guys, it's like important if they can like get a good paycheck. That's why a lot of times they'll take it. If they could cash out, that's why they're gonna do it. You secure your future, not just for you, it's your family. Now you own your house, maybe you have a little business, whatever it is. You're pretty set.
Going back to the national team, a couple of issues I have with this that are pretty alarming. Number one, we have the second oldest roster in the World Cup. That's a little bit concerning.
Wait, what age is it?
I don't know the average. I just know that it's the second oldest.
Oh, do you know? Because we could cross-reference it to the average age of World Cup champions.
Oh, okay.
It's between 28 and 32. I think that's around the
Well,
age.
we got old heads like Alfredo Talavera fucking up our average because he's 40, and he is the oldest player in the World Cup.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, Italy's not there. Italy always takes viejitos.
So it's like, dude, we're like not like things that we should not be proud of. Another thing that concerns me. This will be Andres Guardado and Ochoa's 5th World Cup.
Yes.
So we have the
second playing the 6.
We have the second oldest roster. We have 2 players that are attending their 5th World Cup. And Andres Guardado just became the most capped player in national team history with 178. So, like,
wait, for Mexico or for all national teams?
For Mexico.
All right.
He surpassed
it was Claudio Suarez.
Claudio Suarez, man.
But no, it wasn't. I think some other player beat Claudio.
I'm pretty sure he held the record, man. Even more than like Rafa and everything.
I guess I'm thinking of like, because I think Claudio Suarez was number 2 in the world.
I don't think so, man.
Man, let's ask.
I'm googling it right now. Hold on.
Okay, you're fast.
Most capped players: Andres Guardado 178, Claudio Suarez 178. As far as like most capped player of all time,
there's some dude from Saudi Arabia, I think, or Egypt, somewhere over there.
Sochinan, Malaysia, 219.
Where that guy come from?
And Ronaldo's on that list, man. Ronaldo's number 3 with 191. And you have this dude named Badr Al Matuawa with 196. So Andres Guardado is one of the... Oh, and he's an active player. Wow. He's still an active player, the guy from Kuwait. So Ronaldo, this guy from Kuwait, Andres Guardado are the only active players on this top 10 list. So Andres would have to play like... man, I don't think he's gonna break the record, dude. 219.
Man, well, I have not seen this list in a long time, but I remember Claudio was like between 1 and 2 for a long time.
Wow.
So a lot of these guys weren't around. Of course, we're going way back when Claudio was active, so in the 90s. But it's been 20. God damn it, I'm old. It's been like 20 years, so a bunch of these dudes popped out of nowhere, especially this Malaysian guy who they probably play the same team. It's like
I don't know if they're counting like, hey, I went to birthday parties. Those count as caps, right? We had a scrimmage against some kids in El Barrio. That counts, right? That counts as a cap. It's like Romario when he was counting like every goal, right? Every goal.
No, that's Pelé, dude. That's Pelé.
Romario too, though. I feel like.
No, he was making the claim that he had the most goals because he's our official, and that a lot of Pelés were made up, like they weren't records.
Oh. That's funny as hell. But anyway, so all this data, right? You have second oldest team, oldest player in the World Cup, 2 players with 5 World Cups. Should we be concerned for
No,
2026? Because we're not taking any young
no,
players, man.
I'm not concerned. Not even with second oldest. Oldest isn't necessarily bad. Like I said, that's a lot of experience right there. Um, so that could play in your favor. I think it's between 28 and 32, about give or take, and I think that's about the average age of the three. So it's a pretty good age. I do think there's enough young talented players. I'm not worried for next cycle. I just think that just didn't wasn't concerned with that. But like if you say, okay, we're starting the cycle for next World Cup, I wouldn't say, oh, Mexico is lost or doesn't have a strong enough squad. I bet they could put one fairly easy.
I think the issue is like, Tata obviously tried to resign. He doesn't give a fuck about the future of the Mexican national team. Like, let's just call it what it is. It wouldn't hurt in a roster of 26 to take a few young players that, hey, might not even get a lick of minutes, but at least are part of the process. Santi Jimenez Lainez, Carlos Acevedo. You want to have at least a few young guns. Ronaldo went to the World Cup in '94. He didn't play a single minute, but he was there. He was part of the process. And it's like, with this roster, it's like no one is going to return from this. Maybe a few players, but it's going to be a brand new squad in 2026. And it's like, it was like a missed opportunity to like prepare them for that. But we'll see, man. We'll see if it pays off. I'm very concerned about Argentina. Uh, it might be it might be a complete, shit show when it comes to speed. I think that's the thing that is killing the defense is our speed. It's not there.
Yeah, as Mex has beaten Argentina, it's been at the group stage, not the World Cup. It was Copa America,
Oh,
but they beat them.
yeah, that's the last time we beat Argentina. Free kick from Ramon Morales in 2004. It's been a minute.
Yeah, so I'd rather play them group stage than round of 16 or whatever final.
So let's talk a look at this group stage. You have Qatar and Ecuador kicking things off on Sunday. Obviously, the pressure of hosting the World Cup and playing against El Anfitrión. But Ecuador's a good team, man. Do you think Qatar's gonna win the opening match, or are they gonna get embarrassed in front of their own country?
What's that group? Who's the other teams in the group?
So it's gonna be Senegal and the Netherlands.
Oof. Uh, My prediction is they're the second team to not make it out of the group stage.
Yes,
Pretty much
sir.
every host, every World Cup host had made it past the group stage up until South Africa, and I think Anfitrión now is gonna follow that lead.
I mean, let's be honest. Qatar bought this World Cup. How deep are their pockets? We're gonna find out. We saw what happened with Korea and Japan in 2002. Those teams were not teams that were considered to have deep runs, and Korea went
No,
to.
but they've had like more. They've had like leagues. Well, I don't know Qatar league, but I know they've had their leagues for a while running, and they would always bring in like a lot of like Argentines and Brazilians, maybe older, but they were still bringing in coaches and players. Trying to learn the game.
So I'm gonna write these down at the end of I guess, the group stage. We can reflect on these. So out of Group A, who do you see coming out on top?
I'm gonna put Ecuador and Netherlands. Netherlands wins the group.
Okay.
That's the group we're talking about, right?
Yes.
Yes, Bengal. He's gonna win this group.
I agree, and I also think it's gonna be in that order. I am very curious to see how Qatar does handle the group stage. Um, maybe not sleep on Senegal. I don't know. With African teams, like most of them don't even get out of the group stage, man.
Senegal was one of those teams that at one point people thought they were gonna be like kind of like a world power, and then they just fizzled out. But it's been hectic, like in Africa, like when they have the African Nations Cup, where it's like they'll host it, and then like the country has like a civil war, where there's like guerrillas attacking.
Oh yeah.
It's okay. It sounds like like made up shit. If you're hearing it, like one of the buses got shot up in one of their tournaments. It's I don't know, man. It's just a bunch of crazy shit going there.
I remember in '06, like one of the big propaganda, not propaganda, but like advertisements for the World Cup was like, "Oh, the World Cup is so strong that it's like they put the war on pause in Africa." I'm like, "Oh shit." Like I think in the Ivory Coast or something. Yeah. Also, for those on the Twitter Spaces, if you're listening in and you have your own predictions, feel free to chime on. Just put request to speak, and we'll put you on. This is the group I'm more excited about, Group B, because you have England, Iran, USA, and Wales. Oh boy, I love this group.
Damn.
My boy is his dad's English. He grew up in the States, so it's like he has like a conflict of interest there.
Nah, he doesn't know who to root for, huh?
Well, yeah, he doesn't know who to root for. Obviously, he's more American than
He
he
got,
is English, but he also did spend time in England, so I think he wants to like get one of those jerseys that's like half England, half USA.
he probably doesn't know they exist. You should get him one, Jaime. You need to get him one.
We gotta go to the Pulga and find one for him. El Tianguis. But I don't know, man. Like England gets hyped up so bad, and I'm not gonna lie. They had a good run in the World Cup in Russia. They went to semis, and then they had a good Euro run. Everybody thought they were gonna win the Euro against Italy, but the world, I don't know, man. Who's winning this group? You think England's gonna win the group?
Yes, I'm gonna give it to the English.
Okay. Who you got for second place? You got Iran, USA, Wales.
That's the thing. It's obviously gonna be between Wales and the U.S.
Ooh, okay.
and a big incognita with the U.S. man. You know,
You
they
know,
haven't been very consistent.
I the only reason I say I'll agree with this is because for some crazy thing, if USA and Mexico get out of the group stage and get past the round of 16, they would face each other in a quarterfinal, and who does not want to see that?
Oh yeah, that would. Oof, how many years in the making would that be since
And
what?
then we lose
Since
2-0.
two? Oh no, we got rid of that curse. Ended it. It ended. It ended with Osorio. Or was it Osorio? No, it was with Aguirre, right? Um, it was a Gold Cup, and Mexico was losing 2-0.
That was under Chepo, bro.
It was that's my boy. How am I forgetting that?
He's like, that's my
I was
boy.
at the game. It was, man. He still is. Damn, I was at the stadium, and I was like, if they could score one before the half ends, they could get back in it, and it was quite the turnaround. No, I think because Aguirre people was Aguirre 5-0. He
Five
won the final.
zero was who was coach back then? That was
Yeah, I think it's Aguirre.
was he?
I'm pretty sure.
Because Aguirre was
I know
like
I know
came in.
Peach would know, but he won't jump in.
I'll look it up right now because that was in 2009, I think.
I don't know, but then it was like 5-0, and then there was the big 4-2 win. That's one of the things I've said as far as like
2009.
dominating. Yeah, one thing I said like dominating the region. Mexico's always been the only team like in the region when they win a final by that big margin,
Javier
like where
Aguirre.
they
Hey,
come.
you got a good memory, bro.
Yeah, thank you. It's me está fallando. But I, my mind likes to switch stuff up on me. Um, but yeah, it's you haven't seen it any other country that's been like the dominant, whether it was Costa Rica or US. You've never seen them like be that dominant where they'll completely like destroy another team.
Yep.
Like what we saw Mex go and beat Costa Rica, right? I think it was at Costa Rica with La Volpe as their coach, and they just took him apart. And just big wins like that, like the 5-0 and 4-2, and
Hmm.
I think it was 4-0 at another Gold Cup at Azteca.
Fun fact: Tata's the only coach to survive 3 defeats to the United States and still be coach.
That is a first.
So, looking into Group C, Argentina, Saudi Arabia, Mexico, and Poland. I feel like I already know your answer, but I want to hear you say it. Who's the top and who's the second place?
Argentina, they're my favorites to win it all. You're talking about viejitos, and that's gonna be an old Messi, and I think he's at like the right age where it no longer affects him. Whereas like he felt he had to do everything. I don't think he's there. We've seen viejitos come in. Pele wins it in 70. He was already, you know, 1 foot in retirement, and he came in and he helped Brazil win that World Cup. So I think it's going to be kind of similar to that. You'll probably see comparisons down the line of the teams doing, but um, I don't know, dude. Mexico, big incognita for me. It's been hard to like kind of predict, much because I haven't seen much of Poland, so it's hard for me to see how they're gonna like how they'll match up against them.
I agree. Um, I think for Group C, it's gonna be a weird way how we get through that stage. The first game is pivotal, and my prediction for the first game, Mexico Poland, it's 2-1. I don't know who's gonna win the match. I just know that's gonna be the final score, and I know that there's gonna be a set piece goal by Poland. Like those two, I just know those are guaranteed because
What's
the,
the score? What's the score you said?
I say 2-1.
Two one.
Either Mexico wins 2-1 or Poland wins 2-1, but that's the final score and a goal off set piece from Poland. Like I just know that's gonna happen because the 4 years that Juan Carlos did a great job of fixing the set pieces all went to shit with Tata, and obviously in today's match against Sweden, we conceded that second goal off a set piece. It was a corner kick, so that's my prediction. Going into that Mexico Argentina game, I honestly think it's gonna be like the game that most people expected Mexico to fold over and die. I think that's the game where like Mexico might get a victory or draw. Like I honestly think
Yeah,
I think that might happen.
yeah. If we look at Mexico in the group stage, they're a beast, and pretty much every World Cup leading to now, they've gotten good results against top teams. So '94, they tied Italy, which again they went on to play the final against Brazil, losing on penalties. '98, they tied Holland, which if you look at that squad, it was insane the amount of talent in that squad. They came back to tie it 2-2, and so it's just a massive result for Mexico. Um, that's '98. 2002, they Italy again, another draw. This one had the Italians asking for the telling the Mex to like slow down. I don't know if you remember that game
Oh, yep.
with the Orgetti Golazo, but at the end they're like telling them like, "Hey, chill, man,
Stop the game. Yeah.
chill, bro." They're like, "We're both through. Can you just like?"
Mm-hmm.
And so it's trippy, man. It's trippy that they were like almost asking for mercy, like, um, and that's '02 and '06. I think '06 was the only one where they lost to Uruguay,
That was
and then
no, that was 2010.
oh no, '06
Oh, six.
they lost to Portugal. They lost to
We beat
Portugal.
Iran. We.
No, but I'm talking about just against big teams.
Oh, yeah, yeah, Uruguay. Yeah.
Like the results against the big teams. Oh man, we could be. Well, again, Poland is not a big team like that. Um, so wait, 2010, and then 2014 was another really good year. Draw Brazil, they were host, beat Croatia, and then 18. Wait, they beat France. I forgot in
20,
2010.
2010 they beat France. Lost Uruguay.
There
Yep.
you go. That's what I was forgetting. I mean, so yeah, they beat some big teams, and then they beat Germany and
Yep.
Russia. So I mean, they've proven against majority of these big teams, and we could probably argue against. Oh no, Portugal. For the most part, they do really good against a lot of these big teams, and even when they've lost in recent years, it's not like they got washed. You know, they lost by just
Mm.
the minimum.
You know what's gonna, my prediction is like again 2-1. I don't know who's gonna be Mexico or Poland, but that's the final score. Against Argentina, maybe a draw, and then I think we're gonna underestimate Saudi Arabia, bro. I think that's the team that everyone's gonna like think they're gonna shit on, and then they're gonna be like, nope. And I honestly think Saudi Arabia might draw all 3 games, bro. I know that sounds crazy, but
You're giving too much credit. I don't.
I don't know, dude.
Man, you could probably not name me one player from Saudi
I
Arabia.
can't.
So there you go, man. It's
I
not like they
can't.
have a
Yeah.
more salad or whatever.
But you gotta understand,
that
bro. This
stands
is the
out.
Middle East, dog. We're in the Middle East. We're like the World Cup is being hosted there, and that's a big deal. And I think that will come into play.
Yeah, for like some of these teams that they probably they're like in their home turf.
Yeah, bro. It's different when you're in their home turf, man. There's different customs. They're gonna have a crazy backing.
Well, it could probably help Mexico these customs because they don't allow like prostitutes and alcohol. So Mexico, they're going to be forced to really concentrate this time and just stick to the football.
We do have Danny on the line who has to speak. Danny, what you got for us?
Hey man, can you hear? Can you hear me?
Yeah, welcome
Yes.
on.
Hey man, thanks for having me on. I'm with some of my friends right now. We're drinking to drown our sorrows with Mexico's performance during the last couple friendlies, and some mezcal.
Why do you have to do us like that?
But I just want to say I'm not really confident with how Mexico has been playing and like the players they've called up, and how Raul has been injured since August, and when he played, it looks like he hadn't played soccer since like forever. I mean, that's what I think. What about you guys? Just real quick, any thoughts? Say something, guys.
I mean, I think Mexico has been doing pretty decent. I think if they follow the style that the U.S. plays a little bit, it could improve their game a little bit.
Oh my god.
no, but
How much have you been drinking tonight, man?
No, but it's a thing where we need to improve the standards of CONCACAF. If both U.S. and Mexico can raise their levels, then we can perform well as a continent at the World Cup.
True. So, represent CONCACAF, bro.
Exactly. So it's not whether I like Mexico or USA, but maybe we just USA a little bit. But
I just think Mexico is doing really poorly right now, and I think the performance against Sweden wasn't necessarily what I expected. Unfortunately, I should have expected it. But I'm hoping that if we have a good performance against Poland, maybe that'll turn things around. And starting like El Chucky and whatnot, like star players, I think will make a difference.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I think Danny, you hopped on a little bit before after we had talked about this. We prefaced this podcast like, hey, what you see in the friendlies and leading up to this is not what you're gonna actually see on that once they blow the whistle in the World Cup. Like a switch turns on in these Mexican players. We've seen it time and time again. They have a terrible qualifying stage. They have a terrible lead up to the World Cup, and then when the World Cup starts, they just turn into like the team that we saw against Colombia, at least in the first half. So I think Tata was holding back a little bit. He didn't give us our final like form. Obviously, you don't want to give out too much information. Poland's watching the game, trying to figure out, how they're gonna stack up against us. So you can't give your final starting 11 against Sweden. You just can't give out your cards like that. But so I would say, don't worry about it. Mexico's got this. Obviously, it's very frustrating, and it's not very comforting to see this team lose this close to the World Cup, and obviously the set pieces issue. And my biggest frustration with tonight's game was the fact that we insisted on crossing the ball, and these dudes are freaking giants, man. It's like we're not gonna win those headers. I don't know why they insisted playing on the wings and crossing the ball. It's like we're not gonna win those battles. And 70% possession in the first half, and we had nothing to show for it. So I think it's going to be a very similar game against Poland. You cannot allow Lewandowski to have any glimpse of that goal. He's going to put it away. All he needs is one chance. I can see Mexico easily giving up a goal off a counterattack or off some stupid play. Despite playing well, despite moving the ball around well, despite owning possession, I can see Poland doing that. And I think Tata needs to figure out the defense side of things. As far as Raul goes, I don't know, man. I don't know what sort of favors he owes him, or I don't know if it's a marketing scheme, but Raul has no business being in the World Cup, let alone starting. So it is what it is, man. Managers will always have their preferidos.
Yeah, I'm just gonna add really quick with what we talked about earlier. If you look at results leading to the World Cup, a lot of times they haven't looked that good. So Mexico going into '98 World Cup, their results are really bad, like worse than what we're seeing now. And that ended up being one of the more exciting World Cups for Mexico. Going into the World Cup, to '94 World Cup, Mex loses to the U.S. And this was a U.S. team that their players were pretty average. A lot of college players. They weren't really the squad that we've known for recent years. And that's Mexico going into a group of death, and they can't beat the U.S. and they end up winning the group of death. And so Mexico struggling going into the 2014 where they had to play the repechaje, the what is it called, Jaime? The wild card, whatever. They had to go and play against New Zealand.
Playoff game.
Playoffs. Thank you. They had to do playoffs. And then they go up and they have a really great 2014 World Cup. So World Cup qualifying, and then even games. God damn, even these preparation games, they don't always give us a full picture of what could happen. And then we've also seen the opposite, teams that dominated. I'll say it again, Colombia dominated going into '94 World Cup. They couldn't make it on a group stage. Mexico dominated their qualifying in going to the '78 World Cup, and they were the worst team at the World Cup. Ended up in last place. So I think the media is the one that puts us like this, because then they always build their narrative and their story out of the results. Because that's kind of what they're doing, right? They're kind of telling the story of the selección, and that's what they have to sell. So we kind of, it's like a novela pretty much, and I can see why it looks pretty dire when seeing the team struggling, which I don't think they really struggled. They were just, these other teams were just doing better.
Hey,
Canada.
At the end of the day, dude, Mexico tied in first place on points.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but if you see if we followed the news, the Spicy Soccer, all these shows, they're making it seem like the sky is falling and this team is.
It's what happened, Joey.
Yeah.
What's up, guys? What up,
Hello.
guys?
Welcome
Long
to the
time.
show we sold.
Hey, can I say hi to you guys before we get into the World Cup? I'm gonna echo. I'm getting killed on online. I think it's because these new fans are not used to, like, they know 4 years ago they already forgot. And maybe Jolie, like all of us old dudes that have been there and that have like written or been on, talking about with other people about the Mexican national team, not just with your friends or your family that kind of ask you or your Theo when you're coming together, when we kind of like analyze the game and kind of tell people like just hold off. Whenever we play in the World Cup, we elevate our game completely. And just like you said, Jolie, like tell
Yeah.
me a time when we played really well before a World Cup, and I'll give you a result that, I mean, come on. I mean, I think the best time in the recent years, in the last 20 years, that we've had a really good team right before the World Cup where we played well in the preparation match was 2010. Remember that game versus Italy where we like tiki taka
Oh
then?
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Bella scored against Gigi, and we were like, oh my gosh, did we show that against Uruguay? We did beat France, and then what happened in the group?
Hmm.
We tied in South Africa. So like, I think people need to just calm down.
Well, we saw just going off of what you said, '06, because a lot of people regard the La Volpe, the
Yeah,
whole run, because
Oh, six
the whole
was
pasamos
crazy.
caminando, but they couldn't beat Angola. And
yeah.
this was Mexico at the group stage as a seeded team. And Angola was playing with a goalie that was amateur. He wasn't, I think he wasn't even playing in the league. He's the only white guy there. And
Yeah.
they got him from some like, yeah, Liga Llanera, and he's pretty good though. But I mean, you can't beat Angola, man. It's like the
That's
first World Cup. I think they were down a man. You guys could refresh my memory, but
that's what I'm saying. Like anything that we do before the World Cup is not going to show. If you're looking at what happened with Juan Carlos Osorio, and I think I finally could see more people hating on Tata Martino. Maybe if you told me about a month ago, I'd be like, no. I remember I went back to like tweets and articles and everything before the World Cup with Juan Carlos Osorio. People were fuming. I mean, angry. What is
Oh
this
yeah.
guy? What is this guy
add me to
doing?
that list.
Seven, yeah, at everybody. 7-0. We lose against Uruguay for like embarrassing. In the last four games right before the World Cup, I think it was Bosnia, Croatia, Scotland, and there's another team, another European team, and I think we barely beat Scotland and lost all the other ones. And this was Rotaciones Osorio. What are you doing putting, Diego as a center, as
Yep.
a DM? What are you doing putting right backs at like center? Like it was just a mess. And ultimately, when you look back at Juan Carlos Osorio, he's saying like, I was doing shit so that way Germany didn't know what we were gonna do.
Yep. This dude was playing
Like
40 chess, bro.
yeah, he was like, and he said it. I was trying to confuse people on those three games right before. I'm not saying Tata's doing that because Tata's more conservative, but it leads down to the point. People are saying that you love Tata. I think Tata's gonna give us the most boring games, and I'm like step back, conservative. But you know what? I think he's gonna get the job done. If it's 1-0 versus Poland in the 87th minute, if it's a 1-1 versus Argentina, or and then like a 1-0 against Saudi Arabia, somehow we're just going to be like not happy, but all of a sudden we're going to end up with 6 points, or we're going to end up with 4 points in Argentina, barely with 5, 6. Like I feel like just like the qualifiers when everyone said that we were just horrible, and then you look at the points, oh wait, we freaking tied Canada. The U.S. barely got one win outside, and we actually did. We had the best record outside of
Out, yeah,
CONCACAF than any
away.
team.
Hmm.
Canada didn't win. I think Canada barely won a team outside too. So the only thing that would happen, we sucked at home, like every World Cup qualifying.
Wait,
So
so let me ask you a question though. What would you consider Tata being having the job done? Like, what would you consider that? What does that
I
look
mean,
like?
getting out of the group, and I think that's what's going to happen. He's going to get out of the group. We're going to
Mm,
face France, right? And we can't be France unless something crazy. And don't get me
Wait,
wrong, like
aren't they missing some key players out
that's
of
bold to
injury now?
assume France will get out of the group. Who
no, I'm just
knows?
saying, or even Denmark. I mean, let's look at Denmark, right?
Oh
If it's
no.
if it's Denmark, right? Denmark is a Sweden. Denmark and
Yeah,
Sweden. I feel like
Denmark.
The guy that's done predictions, I forget his name. He's like some banker or something, and he's done like World Cup predictions, and
Banker.
he's
what's the 5'6'8" guy? Nate Silver. Nate
he's
the
no,
political.
he's like from England or something, and he's done like he does like statistics and he's used them for football, and he's been like pretty spot on the last two World Cups. And he posted his recently, and he had Mexico beating France, getting
It,
out of the group stage and beating France. And then I went to look for an article of him, and he says luck can play part of it too. He conceded
huge
that,
luck.
but we're seeing. Well, France, like, aren't they missing like three, four key players now?
France just
Yeah,
lost
That
like
ended up.
yeah, but
yeah.
France. I mean, they
What can I
Ginebre's not
say?
making the squad, dude. That should tell you something. Like, when we're looking at
I don't know, man. The curse of the World Cup winners. It's
true. We'll see. But overall, I'm just saying, like, just calm down. We'll see how it. I think Tata. These players aren't gonna.
but
They're not. You're expecting Raul to
we
come
didn't
in.
hire Tata to get us to where we have been in the past. We hired Tata to get us to the fifth game. So
when
for
you
me,
look at
for
when you
me,
look at what
I don't think that
Tata
job's done unless he gets there. And I don't know. If, I don't
Oh
think.
no, no, when you look at what Tata was brought in for, right? A coach with experience, a coach that with that took Paraguay, and he just got done with Atlanta United. If you look at the 2019 run, I mean, we were Raul was playing great, Chucky was playing great. We won the Gold Cup versus the U.S. Then COVID hit. And then there was right for the few games. Remember that European tour against Korea, Netherlands, and there's somebody else where Mexico looked really good. That was when like Tata said, and when we asked him like when did you think that Mexico was playing better, like really good football? And he said that game versus the Netherlands, perfect game, and I think we beat them. Raul was at his peak. Everyone was playing well. Then what happened? COVID,
Yeah.
injuries. I mean, our best two players, let's just say it, got injured
Yep.
for months. And then it all fell down. Then you're going to come in with injuries and not knowing who we're playing with the World Cup qualifiers. And then how do you do with the World Cup qualifiers? Nobody's able to do that except Osorio, but look at the CONCACAF opposition. So I'm not making excuses because people are pissed the fact that, yeah, two players didn't make it. But I think people just need to just calm down and then wait till we play the field, because I think this is where all the players will be like, all right, it's time. So a ver cómo nos va.
Hey, thanks for hopping on. We have Hernan who wants to speak. He's been patient. Thank you for waiting and welcome to the show. What you got for us?
Yeah, no, appreciate you guys. I love listening to all the stuff you'll have to say. Um, just kind of reflecting on some of the things that you guys have said going into previous World Cups. I think the biggest difference this year versus dating back to I guess 2010. Still relatively young back then, but 2010, even though we barely got into 2014, and then the good run with Osorio in 2018. I think that there was still, even though the results weren't there, um, I think there was still a caliber of, of level of play from the players on the squad that we knew was there and that they could elevate at the right time. Obviously 14 and 18 were the peak of the golden generation, and, sprinkling in a few young talent, and then players like, Guli Peña and JJ Vasquez in 14, and then into 2018, with some other key contributions for some of the younger guys. But I think the biggest difference this year is that you kind of already know what you're going to get from the key players. I think that we know that Herrera is on a steep decline. Raul, even pre-injury, started showing signs of being ineffective on the first team, or excuse me, on the national team. And then how much more could you ask of Ochoa? The reluctant nature of continuing to play guys like Moreno, Araujo. So I think
Gallardo.
that that's just Gallardo. Yeah, I just think that that's just the biggest difference. I think that in 14 and 18, we knew that there was caliber there that maybe wasn't clicking at the right time, but given the circumstances of World Cup, these guys could elevate their game, and they were at their peak. And this year, you can't really find it anywhere except with guys like right now with Vega,
There you go.
Chucky, Edson, and even guys like Guti. But it just, I don't know. It just from an outside perspective, it just doesn't look like it's clicking, and you can kind of see where the team could peak versus other times.
You know, the first half against Colombia, I think that's first time I saw them click in a very long time, and they looked
Mhm.
very, very convincing. What happened in the second half? I don't know, but if we can have 90 minutes of what we saw in that first half against Colombia, I think we'll be in good terms. But we'll see. Tata's going to continue to pick on the players that he trusts, and unfortunately, that could be a detriment. That could be his downfall. But at the end of the day, he has an idea of how to approach these matches. We'll see what happens against Poland. It's a flip of a coin for me.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. And on your first point of watching that first half of Colombia, I mean, it has been a long time since we've seen them look that good. And like you said, if they can find a way to extend it, I think you just need to find the guys that are going to contribute to being able to do that, you know, in a consistent basis. And I think you're starting to see that with, like I mentioned, if you have players like Vega, Guti, Edson, Chucky, and then I guess you got to cross your fingers for whoever's playing up top.
Yeah. And up top, it's going to be Funes Mori, Eddie Martin. I don't know. I have no idea who's the start against Poland, but I don't really have much faith in the 9. But he can't. He says his 9 is not supposed to score goals, whatever the fuck that means. So, yeah, he has a very strange way of lining up his players. Well, we're gonna continue to predict the rest of the group stage. We're on that group D with France, Australia, Denmark, and Tunisia. Are you gonna go for the usual suspects? Or are you gonna get a little spicy?
No, the same. Same, man. World Cup hasn't changed so much. I mean, they just keep adding more teams, but we look at it. It's always been the exact same winners. Um, I'm staying with the same.
Yeah, I have France, Denmark getting out of the group. Although the curse of the World Cup winner is a thing, but France has just got squad, man. They roll so deep. I can't see them not getting out of the group with Australia and Tunisia. No disrespect to them. But yeah, France, Denmark out of Group D. Group E is pretty fun. You have Spain, Costa Rica, Germany, and Japón. That's a tough group.
Yeah, Japan to ball. They just kind of like similar to Mex. They're just in a region that there's not a lot of competition for them. Kind of like Australia so they had to move to to Asia because they were just playing New Zealand, probably Malaysia. um, damn, yeah, that one. Who do you have, Jaime?
Obviously, Germany has a big chip on their shoulder, crashing out of the 2018 World Cup. They're one of the favorites to win this one. So I have Germany getting out of the group and Spain.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I don't really see Japan taking out any of those two teams. There should be some fun games though. Japan likes to play pretty open, attacking football.
One of my favorite debut matches for the World Cup was the one against Germany and Costa Rica. It was such an entertaining match. There was a lot of great goals. And Costa Rica was not a pushover in that match, even though they ended up losing. But that was one of my favorite opening game.
Yeah, I was at the game, Jaime.
Damn.
I was actually at that match, the opener. I don't remember much of it though.
Was Soccer Chronicle in that game too? He's listening right
now.
He
was, yes, he was. He's just being a punk. He didn't come up to say. He didn't say I should have, but I had a phone, so I was like, "Hey, dial me," and then we could. I bought one of those burner phones.
Yeah, I invited him to speak. I don't think he has anything to say, or maybe he doesn't have a mic, but we'll keep going with it. Group F, All right, you have Belgium, Canada, Morocco, and Croatia. Ooh, I like this group. I like this group because Canada's gonna get exposed. All right, that's what I'm. That's what I'm more. I'm looking forward to this. Everyone's like, this is the best Canada generation we've seen. Winner of the Concacaf, qualifiers. They ain't gonna do shit in the World Cup. I am very confident.
Damn.
They ain't doing shit, bro. It's gonna be Belgium and Croatia for me.
Yeah, those are pretty strong teams. Hard for me, man, because I haven't seen much. Previous World Cups, I used to see as many games as I could. I used to be on top of all that, but I've kind of gotten burnt out. I think I peaked at how many games you could see. I used to see any game I'll see if it was on, I'll watch it. Third division Malaysian team with little kids kicking a rag ball with dogs running across the field. But yeah, the the same teams I have, but you never know, man. You always have like like you said earlier, you'll have teams like South Korea, when they went pretty far. Even Costa Rica, right? When
Mm-hmm.
they end up going in. I think Canada has that possibility of
Mm.
of pulling in something like that. Um, so I'm with you, like where they could not do anything just because they never been to a World Cup, but at the same time, I think they can at the same time at least get a result here or there. I remember the what was it in yeah, it was in '02 when the U.S. faced the Portugal Golden Generation and they end up beating them.
That's right.
And that was like surprising. I remember seeing that match because that Portugal team was stacked,
Figo.
and you would have not expected a result like that. And it's almost the same, right, with this Costa Rica team. I mean, not Croatia team, and then Canada, which is fairly similar to the U.S. Um, and so yeah, I think they could pull out a result here or there and surprise a team. I agree with one of the callers because where you do want the region to look good, so you not hate on the other teams and just want them to go three and out, and then we complain that the region sucks. I don't get that line of thinking, but we want the region teams to do good so that it brings more, you know, more respect, more quality, more everything, which I do think has slowly been happening because we've talked about how Canada's been investing a lot. Obviously, the U.S. has been investing since what, like the '90s
Mm-hmm.
when they were about to organize the first World Cup, and then as condition was they had to have a league, and so they started the MLS, and they they're almost at 30 teams, right? And they started with like eight, and they're going to be at like 30 pretty soon. And same with Canada, where they started investing in their football. They put teams in MLS, but then they started their own league.
Yep.
So they have those two things going, and now they're going to be one of the hosts. So it's good to see those countries. You know, it was that's what it takes: investing, putting money to make the league, the region more competitive. So, and then Mexico, of course, they're going to remain competitive. So now it's up to some of these other teams from like Central America, the Caribbean to like step it up. I thought Costa Rica, but I don't know what's going on over there. They seem to have their shit in order, but then they sort of like disappoint more often than
Yeah,
not.
they've been inconsistent. They've been inconsistent.
But we did see Panama because they did. Again, they built their stadium, their national team stadium, and they they managed to qualify to the World Cup. But I guess like small countries, so sometimes they probably don't have the crop of players, so they won't have just the money needed because you do ultimately you do need money for scouting for prepping the teams for bringing in quality coaches. So I mean you do some of these countries do need money as opposed to you're like Uruguay where it's like or like Brazil where you could just kind of get random people from the street and they'll do a really good job. Um,
We're trying to get Ron to get his mic to work. I don't know. He's sounds like he's having technical issues, but I'll be honest, bro. I could give a fuck about the
Boomer.
CONCACAF region, and I could
Damn.
like. In fact, they should take away. They should take away more
hey.
spots. That would make qualifying more entertaining,
Oh, so
dude.
you want Mexico to not make it?
I'm just saying, like, it's gonna take forever for the rest of the countries to catch up. Let's just remove another spot and really, really make this a little bit more interesting. Like, look, Canada, whatever, they can go on a deep run. They can be the dark horse or whatever. I honestly think they're gonna be deer in headlights when it comes to the World Cup, man. I don't know if they've ever qualified to one, but
Yes, they have.
yeah. So, and with USA, look, man, I hope they lose all 3 games. Like, I could care less, bro. The next World Cup's gonna be here, so we're gonna automatically be in it, and there's gonna be 48 teams. It's gonna be like participation trophies all around. Like, man, I don't want that. I don't, if it was me, I would petition Mexico to move to Conmebol, get back in Libertadores if they want to really be competitive. That's what they should do. They get back to Copa America, get back to Libertadores, man.
I agree with those two, but you don't need to move to CONMEBOL because they already did that without having to move. Um, so, but they do need that. The league, I do feel it helped with a lot of the players, come up. Chicharo was one of them that
Mm-hmm.
benefited, or he kind of how he got scouted by like Man U. He was tearing it up at the Copa Libertadores. He was scoring some pretty good goals. Arellano too, man. What a miss. What a miss with this guy getting injured. Damn, Jaime.
We
We
got
need to concentrate. I can't go on your hate rant. I don't want to get into it. We're gonna stay with league, and then we could talk. We could talk after the World Cup.
Group G: Brazil, Serbia, Switzerland, Cameroon. Seems like a pretty straightforward group.
Cameroon, who?
Cameroon, Switzerland, Serbia, and Brazil.
Oh man, Serbia. That's a name I haven't heard in a bit. Yeah, Brazil, obviously, dude. Right there, they got for the first time ever a Liga MX player is repping the Brazilian national team, or 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 a Brazilian national team player is repping Liga MX. I should say. It's just, we never
Dani
seen
Alves.
that. Yeah. Yeah, no, Brazil obviously, man. I think, and they're pretty much always favorites to win the World Cup.
Yep.
That's where Bora Milutinovic comes from.
Bora, our coach for 2 World Cups, right? Or 1?
No, just one for '86. Almost, he got booted
Almost.
going into France '98, and then he managed to land a team, which was Nigeria, and I think he's the only coach to coach 5 teams at the World Cup.
Holy shit! Because he coached USA, right?
He coached USA, he coached Mexico, he coached China, Nigeria, and I believe Costa Rica in the
When the hell did
World
China make a World Cup?
He took him to the World Cup. Well, when I think it was when Korea and Japan hosted. So you had the two main teams not having to qualify, so that opened up a spot, and that's China. China went in, and they haven't since. But
Mexico,
like a hero
Costa
over there.
Rica, USA, Nigeria, and China. Holy shit, dude.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Bora was in that the documentary I mentioned earlier on VIX Plus, the El Grito por
Oh
Guerra.
man, he was still. was he incoherent?
He was
kind of
talking.
like Biden when he talks. Did he make sense?
Yeah, and then another thing, they were showing like a lot of older clips of him too. So
Because he would ramble on now, like the Bora that they stopped giving him interviews because he was like, "What is this dude talking about?" But but he's like a historic one, right?
Yeah, he's a legend, man. Um, you have one more group: Portugal, Ghana, Uruguay, South Korea.
Portugal, Ghana.
Uruguay, South Korea.
Man, I like South Korea, but I never discounting the Uruguayos, man. And Portugal has another viejito in CR7, and I think he's gonna put all his marbles there because it's not looking good for him at Man U.
Yeah, for those that follow Ronaldo closely, he did that interview. Finally dropped today with Piers Morgan. This is just dropping bombs on everybody, his own teammates. Even on the the guy he's interviewing, like, you suck. Nah, just kidding. But this dude's like, this guy does not hold back. But I don't know, man. I think Portugal and Uruguay should get out of the group. And FIFA being FIFA would want a matchup eventually between Portugal and Argentina. I don't know if that's going to be all the way to the final. I just know the way FIFA works is like they want that matchup. I don't know if we're going to get it, but
Well, not just FIFA, but even all sponsors. You want some of the bigger known players that have the bigger sponsorships to get as far as they can because as your product being promoted. So it's FIFA. They already make their money. It don't matter who the final is. They already cashed out, man. They got their money already. It's all on TV. Gate, all that is already sold out. So I mean, even tickets for the final, they're already sold. So FIFA has their money. They don't. Of course, they would want to just because just for what it means to the tournament to have these big matches. But for money wise, they people already made out like bandits. They're already they're already counting, dude. That's long gone conclusion there.
yeah, I just know like
It's like
that
it's
would
the
settle
sponsors too. Like
that would settle the debate. You know, who's the better player, Messi or Ronaldo? Everybody wants to know.
for because the World Cup, even then, dude, because let's say Messi could have the better tournament and Ronaldo wins, and then because he won, well, not him, but his,
His team.
Portugal wins, and
Yeah.
then let's say because of that,
Well, that was the big thing, right? It's like both of these players hadn't won an international trophy with their respective countries, and
and
Ronaldo
then they did.
Ronaldo technically did. He got injured and had to leave the final, and but he did win with Portugal, and then Messi ended up winning with Argentina in the Copa America.
But what's more impressive, Argentina winning the Copa America or Portugal winning Eurocup?
I would say beating
It,
Brazil in their own country, that's pretty impressive.
no,
Yes,
no.
that was massive.
Argentina's won this over 14 times. Portugal basically had never won it before.
Yeah, they lost it in
True.
their own country in the Euro 2004. That was painful to watch.
Yeah, against Greece, exactly. So, if
So
I
not
were,
even
if
with
I,
Eusebio were they able to win it.
no, they weren't even able to win it. So, I mean, Portugal winning that is more impressive than Argentina winning it, even if they played it in Brazil. So, in terms of the whole, I mean, I don't get into the whole, Messi, Ronaldo, because it's really stupid. But if I was a coach and I had the opportunity to pick one over the other, I would pick Ronaldo for one reason, because he has proven that he's been able to play in various leagues under various coaches and still excel.
Yep,
That you really can't say that about
Messi.
Messi, because I mean, uh, it seems like he was designed for that Barcelona philosophy,
Yep.
and that's always been his criticism when he's gone to the national team, is that, well, he doesn't have Xavi, he doesn't have Iniesta, he doesn't have that
Yeah.
backbone. But I mean, he's a phenomenal player. He's one of the all time greats, I think. But I'm just saying, if I was the coach and I was to start building a team, I would I would go with Cristiano.
I'm on Team Ronaldo too, and I've always felt that way. You know, hey, this guy won a Prem League. This guy won a Champions League with Manchester United and Real Madrid. He's done it consistently with different leagues and different teams. And with
Different
Messi,
coaches.
what's Messi doing in
Right.
PSG? Absolutely nothing. But I feel like this is the World Cup that he's destined to win, right? He's gonna do everything in his power to try and win one. Uh
I think it's still going to go to Europe.
yeah.
I still think that it's going to go to Europe.
who do you have, Ron? Who do you have winning it for Europe?
Uh, I think I have a feeling that England's going to make a deep run. I have a feeling that um, that what do you call it? Spain's also going to make a deep run, and I
Mm.
have a feeling that Germany's going to make a deep run.
No France, huh?
Uh, no,
That's a bunch of teams, man.
I just think that they're gonna. I think
Even
honestly, I wouldn't
call
be
the
surprised.
octopus just picks out of two teams, man.
No, I wouldn't.
You
I wouldn't
named
be
half of
surprised.
Europe already.
I wouldn't be surprised if Germany pulls through on this one. I really wouldn't.
Germany, I did not
they
see that
they
coming.
bounce back. Where are
What's that?
Germans? The Germans.
You know, you can't rule them out ever. You just
Never.
can't.
Wait, are they? I think they're the most winning. I'm not sure on the stats. I
When
used
you
to remember
when you
Brazil,
consider
but they could be the most winning
they
team
made
at
it
the
to
World Cup.
they've made it to more finals. They've made it to more
Yeah.
finals. And their record, I mean, their record in European Championship and also in the World Cup is just, I
Mhm.
mean, Jesus, I mean, they're usually top. We're Mexico's just content with the fifth game. That's like nothing to them. That's a walk in the park for them.
Fun fact: there was two Germanys at one point.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
But yeah.
and they brought that
Wait,
up
wait,
in
hold on, hold
the.
on.
Go
Wait,
ahead.
did they both play at the World Cup, Ron? Do you know? They're both Germanys.
Yeah, they did. In fact, there was a scandal involving.
Wait, I would
There
like
was
to see that with Mexico.
no, there was I think
One
if
is
I'm not
bound to
mistaken,
get the keeper.
there was a scandal regarding. I think they played for a tie
Against
or
Austria?
whatever. Not Poland or Austria. I don't remember off the top of my head. But yeah,
Austria, I'm pretty sure they just passed the ball
yeah.
around for. And oh, I didn't know it was back then. I remember there was two Germanys, but
Yeah.
we need that with Mex, dude. Like the country could fake a civil war in East and South Mexico or whatever, and then they both qualify to the World Cup, and
Well,
improve our
that's how
chances
like
of
Ireland
a
is, right?
quinto partido. Yeah,
Ireland's
it is.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah, except one of them really sucks, and they never make it to the World Cup.
Neither have like in a long
No,
time.
the '94
Yeah.
was, and then I think a bit recent.
So Ron, we thanks for joining. It's been a while. We wanted to hear your take on Mexico. Like, how far do you see them going? Do you see them even getting out of the group? Like, are you pessimistic? Are you optimistic? Are you kind of just in the middle?
This is a team that I have zero faith in. Absolutely no faith in. I mean, this is really the first time that I can remember the national team that doesn't have whether even with past coaches, whether you agreed with their system, their style, their philosophy, at least you knew what they were trying to play for. I don't know what this guy. I don't know what that has been trying to do with his team. I really don't. He's it's a mystery. You know, um, I just I just think that this team is basically playing with like what is it with a chicken with their head cut off. I don't see it. I don't see what they're trying to do. I don't see a style that they're really trying to focus with. To I don't know. I think this may be the first time since '78 that Mexico does not reach the does not go past the group stages.
Damn. Yeah,
I
this
mean, it's bound to happen sooner or later because we've seen it even to the big teams, to the
Yeah,
France, to the
but it
Germanys.
but it doesn't have to be that way, you know. I mean, check this out. The fact that you are one of the oldest teams in the World Cup,
yeah.
and knowing that you're not only preparing for this World Cup, but the one in 2026. I mean, you have what 26-man roster. It's been 23 for the past what 5, 6, whatever World Cups, right? Uh,
Yes.
how many times did we did pundits and media types always say, "Oh man, we could have just brought so and so, even if not to play in, just so he could get experience."
Yeah.
You know, where you could have had 3 players, just for the ride, just so they can get experience and stuff like that. Because you know what, I doubt that he's going to play. I mean, and like in every World Cup, there's always 2, 3, 4 players, 5 players that do not play.
Yep.
Okay, so there was no reason not to take Linus. There was no reason not to take what do you call
Santi.
it, Santiago Jimenez. There's no reason not to take
Acevedo.
Sebastian. No, that too, and Cordova,
Cordova.
because I mean he was starting to play better with in Tigres towards
Tigres.
the end
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that.
Ron, I blame the directivos
It
more
is
though.
no, it is. You're right. You're right. I do blame them because I don't think that they have a clear. I don't think that their objectives are clear, because if you are trying to create one of the best leagues in the world, I don't see how you're able to do that and actively try to sell players to Europe. It's either one or
Yeah,
the other.
I,
Either
I I know.
you
Yeah,
either
I
shit
know.
or get off the pot.
Yeah, and it's not like you're imposing the starting lineup, but you do have to like look towards, like you said, to building toward the future,
Yeah.
and where they could have just pressured him to be like, we need these guys because we're looking forward to the next World Cup, and these are going to be, you know, by that point they should be the key players, and so it's really important. And if this guy was to leave, to quit, I feel he could easily be replaced.
Well, here's my question to you guys. Other than other than this World Cup, what tournaments do what tournaments is Mexico going to play going after this World Cup to 26?
It's a good
I mean,
question.
Is Copa America? I mean, because Nations League and Gold Cup ain't going to cut it. I'm sorry, it's not.
And hate to be the bearer of bad news, but
And Coca
we're not
and
going to the
Coca,
World Cup. We're not going to the Olympics.
yeah, I know. So no Olympics. Copa America is still undecided. Copa Libertadores, there's been talks, but it's still undecided. So these players, where the hell are they going to get the international experience? What
Wait,
Coca,
what was the question? I got booted. Can you please repeat it?
I said is like, what international tournaments are the Mexican players going to play? Between now and 2026.
Oh yeah, they're already talking about Copa America. They're
Yeah,
bringing like they had Centenario bringing another one here.
but that's not. There's no guarantees yet. There's no guarantees.
Uh,
There's nothing.
Dude, Conmebol will see the money there, seeing green. They're all for it, dude. Conmebol, they're broke. They're broke right now. If they want.
They've been wanting Mexico for the past
Well,
5, 6
of course.
years.
But if they tell them, hey, they're just, dude. Come on, man. They're like that meme with the guy has the cup. What does it say? Like a crumb or whatever, but that's them right now, man. Look at Argentina; their economy is in shambles. Their money's pretty much monopoly money.
Before you guys continue on, I wanted to jump in and pick the other half of Europe before Ron does to win the World Cup.
Pick another 8 Euro team.
I want the other half, but But no, I was just kind of listening in right now and just kind of agreeing with Ron on the fact that there are no international tournaments unless
There will
Conca,
be,
unless CONCACAF allows Mexico to play in Copa America.
but they're gonna host one here. I could pretty much guarantee it. They've already been talking about it, and
But yeah, unless
But
it's
that, but
a
that, but
centenario type deal, it's not.
but
yeah, it
It's
is.
not.
but
Exactly.
but that has to be I mean, that should have already been you
Announced.
know, announced and stuff like that. I mean, your calendar, that calendar should be full by now because you're planning a World Cup in Mexico. So we should already have you should already have Copa America. You know, they should have already announced. You know what, Liga MX is back. You know, they're back in CONMEBOL tournaments. They're back in Copa America and stuff like that. Because right now everything's up in the air, and that just doesn't you know
No,
doesn't.
you're about to run into the issue where Tata Martino leaves, the directiva changes over. Uh,
Well, yeah, they already
eh,
switched
eh,
half of it, right? They
r-
took like three of those guys. They already booted them out.
right, the Luisa will probably be gone, right? Or you take a FIFA job or who the hell knows what, right?
No,
And
no,
so,
no, no. John Solis, he's a Televisa guy. He's going to stay there. He's gonna be part of that. You know, the organizing committee.
yeah, but at the same time, like you're saying, it's one of those things where nothing's planned. You know, there's no like in a sense, I'm glad there's no what do you call it, eliminatorias, right?
Yep.
But yeah, what's filling the space of that, right?
We got the
No.
Leagues Cup, man. The
Oh,
Superliga.
if you know what, if MLS was also serious about improving the league and being a premier league, that's okay. I get that, but that means that you do your very best to retain your best players and not sell them off to second, third rate leagues. Um, like when they sold Pepe to
The
bottom
Bundesliga
feeding
team.
some bottom feeding team over there in the Bundesliga. And it's like that just sends the wrong message. It's like you're either gonna commit to being one of the best leagues in the world, and basically try to fight Europe, and fight for that prestige, or you know what, you just you say admit it and say, you know what, we want to be a feeder league, and we take pride in selling our talent to Europe, as if that you need validation for that.
I don't think they sell them because of that. I just think because of how their contracts are,
No,
and
I get
they
that.
don't they don't. No, but I
I
think the mistake we make a lot is where we compare it to Mex, where it's like the how the teams are they're able to tie the players with the contract,
yeah.
and I think it's just not the same here,
No,
where it's like total
I
transparency and whatnot. So that's why it's easier for players to leave because like
I
the
get that.
teams could get them really cheap.
And obviously the European passports and stuff like that. I get all that, but what I'm saying, but my point is, if you're going to forego South American tournaments, Copa Libertadores, Copa America, under the premise that you want to focus on the U.S. market, and you want to grow with MLS, and you want to grow. Okay, you know what? I don't agree with it, but if you're going to do it, commit to it, and commit to it 100%. But that means that you keep your best players, and you grow the two leagues, and you make it very competitive. But when you're content selling, and you brag and you boast about, oh, you know what, we just sold our X player to X league and stuff like that in Europe, you're sending mixed messages. So that's why you're never going to sell me that the solution for, at least Mexico's solution, or even the US for that matter, is to provide players to Europe, and hope that that just the sheer their participation in Champions League or Europa League or whatever is going to that's going to provide Mexico a World Cup winning team. It doesn't work for Asia. It doesn't work for Africa. if you
Well,
if
Africa
the
is the bigger indicator, right, Ron? Because
yeah,
we'll see
but here's
African teams like Ghana, Nigeria that are full of Euro players, all in Europe, and
you there there's a reason why there's a reason why Spain, there's a reason why Italy, I mean Italy's had
Germany.
some troubles, but Germany is they can retain their best players. Their best players don't have to go abroad. I mean they I can understand if they okay, they're going from Bayern Munich to Real Madrid. Okay, I can understand that, but it's not like they have to go.
Yeah.
So you keep your best players, and you bring good players, international players, and I think that 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 would that's what kept Mexico competitive. Uh, Mexico has been a top 16 team, which, believe it or not, I mean, like I said, that's on the precipice of being an elite team. They've been almost an elite team for almost 30 years.
Yeah.
That's that. I mean,
Yeah,
the people. I mean, people can laugh about that. It's like, haha, they're always going out on the first round, but you're in the top 16, and that is tough.
yeah, between 13 and
Consistently.
16 for the most
Yeah,
part. Yeah.
yeah, they've been consistently doing that, and they were better. At least or at least they were more concise, and they were more like what Mexico was trying to do in terms of style and everything. Is when they still had their best players playing in the league.
Yeah, one thing that I've noticed from this roster, the 16 playing Liga MX, so
I was actually looking at that earlier. Actually, yeah, earlier today. I mean, like MLS has more players in the World Cup now than than Liga MX.
But
I like
even
it.
even using that comparison, Ron, when the U.S. does the 2-0, when they get to the whole, they beat Portugal, they get to the Germany game. That team was MLS heavy.
Yeah, yeah, I
Their
remember
best
that.
participation is with homegrown players as opposed to with other teams where they've had all these Euro players based.
You know, the whole, like, I know the pundits, they spaz over this, like, oh, how many players Costa Rica has in Europe, or the U.S. But that's always been the case. I mean, they used to say
Well,
that about the teams from the Caribbean. Oh my God, they got 5 or 6 players playing in in England, or, like when Honduras had, I don't know, like I think they had like 6, 7 players playing in Europe, and Mexico only had
yeah,
one.
Suazo. They had
Yeah,
Suazo at Inter.
yeah. I'm like, so that hasn't resulted in them being better than Mexico, or them advancing past the group stages, or
It's
even making it to the World Cup for that matter.
Yeah, and you know what I noticed? It all started with the whole, once we started getting like the mini dish and all that, and everyone's able to see now like Champions League and all that. It became more like globalized,
Yeah.
right?
Early
Because like
2000s, I guess, right?
yeah, because before all the talk was like Mexico should play in
South America.
they should in South America,
mhm.
and it kind of goes with who was winning. So you had Argentina, right, and Brazil winning, and at that point being the more dominant teams. And so there was all the talk from the pundits and like, oh, if Mex could join that region, and with eventually they kind of did, as far as like being able to play in those tournaments. But then after like the Bosman ruling, which made it so that players from the European Union no longer counting as foreigners. So it opened up all these slots, and they started taking more and more South Americans.
Hmm.
Then it kind of the narrative switched. But like you said, like those teams that used to be more, they used to have like the homegrown, they used to retain their talent, which is like how you when you restarted now, it kind of switched over to Europe after that.
Hmm.
After when they like took all the talent, now Europe's winning all the tournaments, and all of a sudden they're the it's like the motto to like Mexico's kind of now looking over there and saying like that's what we need.
Well, I was thinking of what Ron was talking about a little bit ago with Mexico being almost at that next level. for the last 30 years. Mexico reminds me a lot of Spain, in that for the longest time Spain couldn't get over that hump.
That's true.
Right, and then at one point they got, they were able to develop the right players, and they put the right people in the right place, and they got over that hump. I think Mexico at some point will get to that point, or I hope so, right? But right now I was trying to break my head, kind of thinking, okay, because I kind of agree with you guys in that having the domestic player, you know, tends to be when we've done our best, right? 86, even though it was at home.
70.
The 98 team,
Well, just a run from 93 to 99.
Oh, 93,
because,
that Copa America team, man, was
yes, they make the final.
Something
Right?
else.
They make the final of Copa America. 94, they get out of the group of death. 98, second time in a row they managed to get out of the group against two strong Europeans. 99, Copa Confederaciones.
Mm-hmm.
And 95 was another. Was that Copa America 95? I think.
Yeah, that's
95.
That's really the only one that they did. They didn't do too well. They lost to the U.S. in penalties. But
No,
but 93,
not Copa America. I mean, I'm sorry, Copa de Oro, because they beat Brazil.
Oh yeah,
That's
yeah, yeah,
Cuauhtémoc
yeah.
Blanco, and I count that as because I think that's the first official win over Brazil in an official tournament.
Blanco
okay,
wasn't it Confederation? So
90.
That was in 99.
No, it
90.
was 99 too, but the first win came in 95.
okay.
I know the final. I didn't get to go, man. It was raining. It was at the Seca del Norte, the Los Angeles Coliseum. It was sold out, dude. Back then, there was no TV. If the game was in your city,
Oh, blacked out.
it was blacked out, and I listened to it on the radio, dude. Old timey.
In 2001, we went back to a Copa America final.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
but
that's
to
what
me
I'm trying to say. In 93, so 93 you made it to the finals. 95 you crept the bed there. But 97, 98 you reached the semis, and then in 01 you reached the final. So basically, in the first five editions that Mexico participated in the Copa America, they reached at least the semifinals 4 out of the 5 times.
Yeah.
So
we can also add Hugo's team back in, what was that, 07?
no, that was 90. That was 07.
07. Yep.
So yeah, that was 07.
And that was only 2 or 3 European based players. Most of them were domestic league, right?
Yep, most of them were domestic. But that was the team with Hugo. That was really the first squad that started to have more players, going to Europe, because you had Salcido, Massa Rodriguez, you had Rafa Marquez,
Nery Castillo.
Guardado.
Guardado, and
That's
stuff like that.
Yeah.
But
Wait, I just want to mention a fun fact of that Copa America with Hugo. It's the one with Mexico scored the most goals in that tournament. Majority coming over Paraguay. It was led by Tata.
Yeah, yeah.
Con 10
jugadores.
jugadores.
That's right. What was that? 5-0.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was within the first 5 minutes, Neri got some Paraguayan guy to get red carded, and it was all downhill for Paraguay from that point.
And what's the name? Pumas player, it was Veron, got like his clock clean, didn't he? He got like injured pretty bad. Yeah,
that was that one. Yeah, that was that year. But this was where I was going to go with the domestic league players with Mexico. At this point, when I try to break my head thinking about this, I'm trying to think of which 26. If we did a full domestic league this World Cup, right? Squad, would we have the 26 players from the Mexican league to be able to field the team? I don't see it right now.
You don't see us producing a Liga MX team?
Not at this moment, no. No, I think we've fallen behind a little bit in production of players, although America has done a pretty decent job of producing players.
Pachuca.
Pachuca.
But I mean, Atlas should be with the Grupo Orlegui. Their production should be improving soon. But yeah, historically you've had like kind of jump around. Like you had Pumas, then you had Atlas, then you had Chivas, then you had Pachuca, then America. It's kind of always, well, America's kind of always been there, but they just don't get credit. But for some reason, they don't get credit.
Here's
But thinking about it, they've been producing talent for a long time. I hate to say this as a Chillermano, but way more than Chivas for no
this is
Mexican.
this
Ouch.
this is something to think about. This is something to think about. And it's actually pretty depressing. Y- Liga MX has lost value. Not only its own players have don't see the league the way players from the yesteryears saw their league, and you're seeing that with South Americans players now opting rather than wanting to play in Liga MX, wanting to go to MLS. And this is one of the reasons why. You can talk about safety, you can talk about that type of stuff, but when Mexico was playing, when the Liga MX was playing in Copa Sudamericana, and they were playing in Copa Libertadores, the South American player, you know what? They had the best of both worlds. They were playing in a competitive league that paid a lot better than what they were seeing back home,
Yeah.
but they were also being able to participate in Copa Libertadores and Copa Sudamericana, knowing that even if they don't get the opportunity to play in Europe, you know what? They're still playing in a better league
Yeah.
and they're making a lot of money. Okay. So now if you're only if the only option you're providing is the Leagues Cup or the whatever and the CONCACAF, well, you know what? I might as well just go to Seattle. I might as well just go to Cincinnati.
Yeah, especially with the
Wait,
like,
Cincinnati.
cartel
Nobody
violence.
really says Cincinnati, Ron. Come on.
No, but what I'm saying is it's like you know it's pretty pathetic that you're having players that normally would have wanted to stay in Liga MX and say, you know what, I'll rather go to MLS, even though they're going to make a little bit, a little less, they're not going to make as much, but there's other things. It's like, well, you know what, Liga MX is not offering the Comebol tournaments anymore. Oh well,
Well,
you know
that's
what?
and that's on the league for not advertising the league the way that they should, whether it's having these teams participate in those competitions, right? I mean, the Liga MX is one of the most competitive leagues in the world. Now, I'm not saying it's the best league in the world, but it's competitive. Anybody
It
can win
is.
that. Anybody can win that championship any season.
Yep.
I get that. I get that. But the thing is, they're 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 not thinking ahead.
No,
They're not. They really aren't. They really aren't. And I think that's gonna cost them dearly.
Well, yeah, they're too divided. They're too divided, and then they went once and by they I mean the club presidents that make up the FMF. They can't agree, and then you have all these interests getting in the way of like who wants what. But I do think once they voted for that whole expansion of foreigners, I think that's when we started seeing a decline.
No, you have that's. I think that's one
And
one of the
yeah, yeah, because Ron, like going back to like some of these teams like the Necaxa team with La Puente,
mhm.
the and I'm not gonna go further back, just kind of more recent. The Toluca and Toros Neza, man, those teams were something else. And I haven't seen in recent time teams like that played at that level. Well, I'll just maybe the first America with Ben Hacker's first run.
But keep in mind, it was easier to keep teams a little longer back then because you had the longer season, as opposed to like in 90 after the 96. That's when you started to have the short seasons. So did play a role into into teams not being able to build a cohesive team
Yeah,
for
stay
longer periods of
consistent.
time.
Mhm.
Hmm.
But again, my beef and my concern is that one, the players, the Mexican players, are not putting the same value with Liga MX, because when you have players like Pulido and Chofis and Dam
But
going to MLS like it's some sort of a step up, that puts the league in a bad light. You know, it really does.
Yeah,
I just
it's true. And I think another thing too, with the mindset of a young, talented Mexican player, now they're starting to see Liga MX as a stepping stone to a greater league, like going to Europe. The mindset's not the same anymore. It used to be an honor to play for Chivas America. Now it's like, oh,
you,
the,
you had you had many you had many South American players say that when they would go to Mexico, that when they back in their home, like I forget the Uruguayan player, but you know that his generation, their dream wasn't to play for Peñarol or Nacional. It was to play for La Juve or some team like that. Whereas in Mexico, the team, and you may, some people may look at that as not being ambitious, but there's a reason why that player in Uruguay, whatever, wanted to play in Juve, because he knows that he wasn't going to be able to make a good living playing in a league like Uruguay, where the population is 3 million. There's only so much,
yeah,
that league is basically handicapped by the size of their population. So there's just, I don't know. Like I said, the league is going in, personally, I think is going in the wrong direction, because that the direction that they chose in terms of building a stronger North American league, and having stronger presence with MLS and stuff like that. I would be in favor of that to a certain degree, under the condition that they retain their best players. That's the only
really,
way it's
really
gonna.
quick, really
Yeah.
quick on Uruguay. Aren't the majority of the games played in one stadium at the Centenario?
No, they do have really small stadiums, but I know that Nacional they have their own stadium. Peñarol has their own stadium. Um,
I need to
but
check. I'm pretty sure they were playing like all these games. They would play a good chunk of them
no,
in that
they
one
do.
stadium.
No, they have a couple stadiums. Keep in mind, dude, these were clubs back in the over 120 years old and stuff like that. They were from the neighborhoods, so they have like really small stadiums. 5,000, 10,000 people.
yeah. Well, boys, it's been a pleasure listening to you guys talk. It's been a while since we had you on. Welcome. World Cup kicks off in 4 days. Excited. I think like it still hasn't hit us yet. Doesn't feel like a World Cup,
No,
but
it doesn't. It doesn't.
it's in the winter time. It's a little bit different. But I'm looking forward to it. I think like once we have that opening game, I think we're all gonna catch that fever, and we're all gonna be suffering for those three Mexico matches. um, but I have a little bit more optimism. I think that Mexico will get out of the group, but it's not gonna be the way we liked, and it's not gonna be the way we expected. It's gonna be one of those wild roller coaster rides.
Honestly, let's just put it to you this way: I wouldn't be upset if they go 3-0. I'm not wishing for it. I'm not hoping for it, but I wouldn't be upset. I wouldn't be upset, and I'll tell you why. In 2001, when Mexico was basically going in a downward spiral, they
Hmm.
were they were with Enrique Mesa. Nothing was going right for the national teams. All three of them failed to qualify. You know that heads rolled, and as a result, they started they were forced to adapt, and they were forced to basically start paying attention to the youth. and that within a couple years started to to bear fruit, and stuff like that. And and I I I, I think that I think right now, if the national team or the federation, if they just keep doing what they're doing and the league keeps doing what they're doing, there isn't that catalyst for change for the better, you know. And I don't even think that them missing the World Cup, or I'm sorry, not the World Cup, the Olympics. I don't even think that, other than firing, what's his name, Torrado and stuff like that. I don't really see any structural changes to fix the league and the national team for the better. I
Yeah,
don't know.
when
Maybe it would take a a disastrous World Cup for them to make the changes that they need to make.
I guess the problem is like, why would you need to make changes? We're already qualified for the next one.
Well, no, that's good, but that's going to be if if in 2026, if they have a pathetic showing, I can guarantee you that the directors, they'll never be able to step foot in Mexico again.
Oh, 100%.
They
Yeah.
they'll never be able to live comfortable lives in Mexico. They're going to have to live abroad. That's probably, I mean, it sucks to say, but Jesus. I mean, the guys that screwed up screwed up, what do you call it, the '90 World Cup. Rafael del Castillo and all those guys. I mean, they had to leave Mexico for a while. I mean, eventually they came back, but those people were persona non. They were not. What is it? The persona non grata.
Yeah. Silver lining with having the second oldest team in the World Cup and having two players that will be participating in their fifth World Cup is next World Cup. Half of this team, majority of this team will not be there, and I think that's one thing that I can find comfort in and be okay with. I have one last question for you guys before we sign off, and this one is it's gonna happen, so I might as well just ask it. How many free kicks before we hear the puto chant?
We already heard it against Sweden.
Well, I mean, like, I'm talking about opening match against Poland. Like, first free kick of the match. Like, how many free kicks until we hear that chant?
I think the first one.
Do you really think the Qatari officials are going to stop the game for that?
Yeah, that's.
Do you
that's
really
a good.
think, knowing what you know about their stance on that, do you really think they're going to stop it? He's like, oh yeah, we got to stop the game because of this.
You're gonna see the Qatari royalty jumping in on that chant, man. It's weird.
Yeah, yeah, they won't put the sponsors at the, especially the U.S. based sponsors. That's where it's.
Do you remember Brazil? How the Brazilians started to join in on it. They enjoyed it so much that because when Mexico was doing it to their goalkeeper, they started doing it to Ochoa.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember that very well. I'm gonna go fourth kick, man.
Fourth kick. Wow,
Number
man.
4.
You're very optimistic.
I think
Depending
the
on,
first one.
I think it's gonna be the first one, bro.
They're not allowing the drinking, man. That's the thing.
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
That's why they have nothing else.
De pura rabia, right?
I think it's just like the way Tata's team has been playing and the frustration and like not knowing, having nerves and stuff. I think the fans are gonna the first opportunity they get, bro. They're gonna tell the goalie how they feel. It's obviously still going on, and Argentina had a chant the other day that was pretty racial, pretty racist, and like no one bats an
And
eye.
homophobic.
Very homophobic. That one was like
They-
actually like
that one they went in depth on that
yeah.
one.
And I'm like, yo, but FIFA turns a blind eye for that. So what I will say is like these matches that I covered over the last couple years, with the Nations League and the Gold Cup, the referee did pause the game and did issue the warning to the fans. Like, so Like FIFA, I think will be mindful of what happens in the World Cup. There's a lot of eyeballs on there, but we'll see what happens.
They did make an announcement. So during the Sweden game, they did announce in the loudspeaker.
Yeah. What a crazy like thing were to happen if we end up like winning the group and then they disqualify us for the I could see that happening. Any closing thoughts you guys have before we wrap up this episode?
Yeah, I was actually thinking about it the other day. This is what 20 years since basically the one in Japan, Korea. Are we gonna have those? Remember those messenger chat rooms we used to.
This is
have?
it. This is it right here.
This is it. That's it.
This is it. This is the live space.
Oh,
It's the new.
would you guys hop
the
on like
new-
MSN Messenger or something?
Yeah, we
Yeah,
used to
you
hop-
could create groups.
Oh,
You can make your own chat rooms.
Yeah, we used to. That was what we used to do back in 20
But
years
those
ago.
were
man.
late, really late games, man. It was what 2 in the morning, 3.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks for bringing that up, Ron. For the listeners that will be listening to this podcast, definitely join us on Twitter Spaces. We'll probably have them after the matches, and we do have a Discord as well. So I'll make sure to like, it's in our all links.
Am
So
I allowed to go to that?
yeah, of course.
We can discuss it in the Chivas chat, Ron.
Elbow, what you got for us, man? Any closing thoughts?
Yeah, closing. So I'm going to go with my prediction for Mexico and for who wins the World Cup. And so Mexico, I think, is not going to make it out of the group stage just because there's a lot of lack of pólvora, right? We can't put the ball in the net that well unless it's Iraq, and
That's
Iraq's
true.
not in the World Cup. We miss a lot of shots or don't take them, right? So
Mm.
at least our strikers don't. But yeah, I just I don't see it, and I think also Tata's been mismanaging some a little bit of personality stuff, and I just don't see it. And there we go with Joel doing dishes again.
Joel.
But yeah, no, and prediction for who wins the World Cup, I'm gonna go with Brazil. It's been 20 years since they've won it. And they got. I guess this particular team seems to be a little more solid on each line than some past ones. So Mexico doesn't make it out of the group stage, and Brazil wins it.
Wow. Joel, what's your closing thought? Or is he on dish duty? He's on dish duty. Ya le pegó la mujer. Yeah, I'm optimistic. I think Mexico will get out of the group stage. We'll see what happens in the next round. But want to thank everyone for hopping on. And again, like once this kicks off on Sunday, we'll be here.
Wait, I'm out of dish duty.
Let's hear it.
Guys, did you guys want to talk
Just-
Liga MX Femenil?
What?
You guys want to talk Liga MX Femenil?
For closing thoughts? No. It's not even being played right now. We're doing just on Mexico the closing thoughts.
No, just anything you have to end the episode with.
Oh, yeah, I'm gonna go favorites. Reiterate, Argentina's my favorite. With Messi, I think this is gonna be his World Cup. For Mex, I could really see it like a coin toss, man. It could go either way. So I agree with Codazo about the goals aren't there, but there is the players with the talent. You could have a Vega, you could have an exceptional tournament. So I could see Mexico either going 3-0 or actually making that quinto partido.
Yeah, it's gonna be one extreme or the other. We break the streak this year. It's either gonna go really bad.
Either streak.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's either gonna be really good or really bad, but the streak breaks this year. That's my prediction. And with that, gentlemen, we'll call it a night. Thank you guys so much for hopping on. Make sure to follow us on Twitter. And next time we talk, it'll be the World Cup. Let's go.